Somewhere above the Gulf of Guinea, 11:46 a.m., the presidential jet, Freedom 1, was cruising at 38,000 feet. The skies were clear, and everything felt deceptively calm. President Ibrahim Traoré sat near the front of the aircraft, flipping through a classified dossier marked E as only, Alpha Black. His eyes scanned a disturbing line that kept repeating in his head: Operation Last Silence initiated. Eliminate central node before confirmation protocol expires. The language was vague, coded, but Ibrahim had been in intelligence long before politics. He knew what it meant. He was the central node, and the protocol. A kill order. Across the aisle, Aminata Keita, his most trusted intelligence officer, watched him carefully. Her instincts were sharp, and right now they were screaming. She leaned in, voice low. "You read it too?" He nodded slowly. "They want me dead before noon. I just don't know who they are yet." Aminata's gaze drifted subtly to the rear of the jet. 6 military escorts were on board. All were personally selected, yet something felt wrong. The tension in the air wasn't just altitude pressure. It was the kind of cold silence that came before a thunderclap. "I checked our manifest," she whispered. 2 of the guards were last-minute replacements. No background logs in our encrypted system. Ibrahim didn't respond. He simply unlatched the safety from the Glock hidden in the armrest compartment. Suddenly, the jet banked slightly, too sharply for standard autopilot. "Captain, report." Ibrahim called into the intercom. Static. "Then, sir, this is Flight Officer Dembele. The pilot is dead." Dead silence. "What do you mean dead?" Ibrahim barked. "He just collapsed." Blood came from his mouth. The co-pilots locked the cockpit and isn't responding. Aminata's eyes widened. "They've started it. We're in the air, isolated, and they've taken control of the jet." Ibrahim rose quickly, voice steady but urgent. "Seal this cabin, lock the inner doors. Assume everyone is a hostile, unless proven otherwise." The 2 guards at the back stood and drew weapons, but not in defense. They aimed at the president. Betrayal. Shots rang out. Aminata dropped low and returned fire before Ibrahim even flinched. 1 guard dropped instantly. The other took cover behind a bulkhead. Chaos erupted as the remaining guards scrambled. It was an ambush midair.
"We have to reach the cockpit!"
Aminata shouted. "No," Ibrahim said.
"Oh,
"They'll expect that. We take control of the electrical core, beneath the cabin." He ripped open a floor panel beneath the seating area, revealing wires and a maintenance tunnel barely wide enough for one. As gunfire lit the cabin, Ibrahim and Aminata slipped below deck into the belly of the plane. It was dark, cramped, loud with the whirring of the aircraft's systems. Above them, bullets pinged off the floor panels. Below them, betrayal crackled like electricity.
"Ibrahim."
Aminata gasped. "You do realize this was a kill box? They planned this for months," he grunted.
"Then we flipped the trap."
"Who's tracking the jet?" "Every satellite in the West thinks you're on a diplomatic mission to Dakar. No one knows we diverted south, not even our Security Council. They didn't want witnesses," he muttered. "They wanted the silence permanent." Aminata handed him a satellite phone. "If we can trigger the emergency transponder, someone will know we're not on course. But the signal room is sealed." Suddenly, the fuselage shuddered. A dull boom echoed through the plane. "They're trying to blow it midair." Aminata shouted. "They can't risk a failed kill. They're escalating." Then came the voice. A voice on the internal speaker. Cold, unemotional. "This is Operative Blacklight. The president is now classified as terminated. Protocol Lambda will commence. Clear the aircraft in 6 minutes." It was an execution countdown. And the man speaking wasn't Burkinabe.
He was Western.
The accent was unmistakable. American.
Ibrahim's blood boiled.
They were going to frame this as an accident. A press release was probably already written. Traore dead in a tragic malfunction. Africa would be shocked, then silenced, then reshaped, unless he grabbed the emergency fuse panel and shorted 2 wires. Sparks burst and the plane shuddered again.
Lights flickered.
Oxygen masks dropped.
"What are you doing?"
Aminata cried, leveling the cabin pressure. "We're going to force a breach." You're going to crash the jet.
Oh,
I'm going to land it, manually. He shoved open a hatch leading to the lower avionics bay. There was a backup override lever there, linked to the rudder and flaps. If he could tilt the nose just enough, the plane dropped slightly. Above them, shouts. Chaos. The attackers had lost engine control, but not cabin access. Suddenly, the hatch burst open above. A soldier dropped in, blade drawn. Amanita fired, missed. The man lunged. Ibrahim caught the knife midair, slamming the attacker against the steel wall. A savage punch knocked the man unconscious. He panted, blood now running from a cut on his face. "Where do you want to die, Amanita?" he asked. She didn't blink. "Nowhere." Good answer.
he flipped the last switch.
And the plane began to descend. Altitude 17,400 feet, descending fast. 12:08 p.m. Sparks rained as Ibrahim Traoré slammed his fist against the manual rudder override. The presidential jet groaned like a dying beast, its frame shuddering as the flaps twitched under partial manual control. "Descent angle is too steep," Aminata warned, clutching the wall for balance. "You're going to lose lift. I'd rather crash into the jungle than be executed in the sky." A red warning light flashed. Cabin override denied. The cockpit was still locked down by whoever operative blacklight was. Ibrahim gritted his teeth. "We're locked out of full flight control. We need to reset from the main avionics deck, but it's behind the weapons storage hatch, and 3 enemies are still on board. 4, including the co-pilot." A sudden clang above them. Someone had dropped into the lower level. Aminata didn't hesitate. She pulled her backup pistol and fired into the darkness. A grunt, then a crash. The sound of a body collapsing beside a cable reel. She reloaded calmly. 3. Ibrahim shook his head. "Remind me never to doubt you. Remind me to get better shoes next time we fight a war on a plane." They crawled forward through the tunnel. At the end of the shaft, a hatch pulsed with red light. Armory locked. Ibrahim yanked open a control box beside it, exposing fiber optic cabling and manual seals. He glanced at Aminata. "Cover me." Then he began rewiring the interface from memory. 10 seconds later, the lock clicked. The hatch slid open, revealing a narrow room stacked with small arms, emergency gear, and a hardwired comms terminal. Bingo. But standing right there, holding an MP7 and a stun grenade, was another traitor. One of the guards, face half lit by red emergency glow. "Don't move," he said, voice calm. Ibrahim slowly raised his hands, eyes steady. "You really think you're walking off this plane? You're not walking off anything. They don't want you martyred. They want you forgotten." But the moment he blinked, Aminata slammed the hatch door against his arm, causing him to drop the grenade. Ibrahim tackled him, knocking the MP7 loose. The grenade clanked to the floor, rolling. A flashbang exploded, deafening white light. Both Traore and Aminata stumbled back, ears ringing, vision blurred. Through the haze, the guard rose again, but this time, Ibrahim didn't hesitate. 3 shots, center mass. The body crumpled. Aminata regained her balance and grabbed the MP7. One thing's clear, this isn't about one country. This was a kill order from the top of someone else's government. Ibrahim connected the comms cable to the avionics deck. "Then let's show them they failed." He typed in the override sequence. "Secure transponder, online. Distress signal sent. Burkina 1 Alpha, escalation elsewhere. US. Military listening station. Atlantic coast 12:14 p.m. GMTA. Loud ping echoed through the monitoring room. "Sir, we just received a scramble alert from a presidential aircraft. Code Burkina 1 Alpha." The colonel in charge turned slowly. "That plane was marked as lost 15 minutes ago. Apparently it's still flying, and someone just activated the transponder override manually." A long silence. Then he picked up a phone. "Get me Langley. Now." Back on the jet, altitude 13,700 feet, location over southeastern Ghanaian forest line. "Well, we have 12 minutes before fuel runs out," Aminata said, scanning the screen. "We can't land this jet from here." "Oh, we don't have to. Just get us low enough to jump." She turned to him slowly. "You're joking. I have a chute stashed in the rear compartment." "Oh!" "Emergency protocol from the 2022 coup. Didn't think I'd ever use it." Do we have two? Ibrahim paused. Aminata gave him a cold stare. If you even think of jumping and leaving me here, I will shoot you in the back before we hit the trees. He cracked a grin. Noted. They raced back toward the rear bay. As they neared the cargo hold, a single beep echoed from above. Explosive timers active. Aminata shouted. They dove just as the first of two microcharges detonated above the tail. Flames erupted across the ceiling. The fire suppression system kicked in, but smoke filled the bay. We have 60 seconds before the second charge. Ibrahim barked, pulling open a hidden compartment. 2 chutes. He tossed one to Aminata, buckling the other to his vest. You ready to fall out of the sky? Wasn't planning on dying in a suit today anyway. They sprinted to the cargo ramp. Behind them, another figure stumbled through the smoke. The final attacker, burned and wild-eyed, rifle raised. I will finish what I was paid for, he screamed. Ibrahim shoved Aminata out the bay door. Now, then spun and tackled the man into the flames. They struggled, fists and fire crashing into the side bulkhead. The plane tilted wildly. Ibrahim felt the heat burn into his shoulder. Then he grabbed a flare gun from the wall and fired. The flare exploded against the man's chest, engulfing him in fire. He screamed, falling back into the inferno. Ibrahim ran. Smoke now choked the bay. His lungs screamed. Alarms blared. He clipped in, ran to the edge, and jumped. 12:27 p.m. Altitude 5,200 feet. Over the forest of Tano River Basin. Wind howled past his ears as he free fell through a boiling sky. Flames from the doomed aircraft lit up the clouds above him like some twisted sun. Then his parachute deployed. A violent jolt, and then silence. He floated slowly downward, the earth rising beneath him, green and endless. Through the canopy he spotted another chute. Aminata's drifting far to the west. He spoke into the comm clipped to his collar. Aminata's status. Her voice crackled in. Alive, altitude dropping, no injuries. Good, regroup. Then we disappear. He looked back once. In the sky, the jet banked hard, out of control, flames trailing, and exploded in the horizon. And just like that, the world would believe. President Ibrahim Traoré was dead, but for the first time he was truly free to fight back. Tano River Basin, Ghana-Burkina border, 1:04 p.m. The forest was alive with sound. Birds shrieked overhead, branches creaked with the weight of heat, and far in the distance, too far for comfort, helicopter rotors chopped the air. President Ibrahim Traoré had hidden his parachute under brush and soaked his clothes in river mud to mask his thermal signature. A jagged branch had torn his shoulder open during the descent, but adrenaline dulled the pain. He limped through the undergrowth with only a hunting knife, a burnt comm unit, and a will harder than steel. He was no longer a head of state. He was now the most wanted man in West Africa. He moved quietly, navigating by memory and instinct. 20 clicks northeast was an abandoned field station, once used by Sahel resistance units during the 2015 insurgencies. If it still stood, it could serve as a hideout. A crow's cry echoed, 3 short bursts. He froze. That was a signal, friendly or not. He crouched beneath a mangled fig tree, knife poised. Then a whisper, Ibrahim. He knew that voice. Aminata. She emerged from a thicket, scratched, sweating, but alive. They embraced briefly, then went silent again. They scrambled recon drones an hour ago, she whispered. I had to duck under a waterfall to evade infrared. Any sight of locals? None. But I intercepted a signal burst. Whoever hired those men on the plane, they've activated a cleanup team. He nodded. They'll be here by sundown. And they're not just hunting us. They want evidence erased. That includes our bodies. Then we give them something to chase. By 2:30 p.m., they reached the ruins of the field station, a stone shelter covered in moss and vines. The satellite dish had collapsed long ago, but the underground storage bunker was intact. Inside, they found supplies, sealed rations, medical gear, a rusted but operational radio. Aminata patched together the comm unit, while Ibrahim stitched his shoulder with surgical thread and no anesthetic. He never flinched. We need proof, she said, something that connects this to their chain of command. I have the Alpha Black dossier, he replied. They'll assume it was destroyed in the crash, but it's on a microchip stitched into my jacket's lining. She smiled. You never trust the cloud, do you? Never trust anything that doesn't bleed. Aminata activated the radio's long-range frequency, crackling. Then a voice Burkina Sierra command. This is Echo Dawn. Confirm identity. She tapped in a code. Echo Dawn transmitting from Zone Red. Priority 1. Ghost protocol active. Repeat. President Traore is alive. A pause. Then copy that. Sierra command en route. Estimated contact in 6 hours. Extraction pending verification. Ibrahim stood. 6 hours. That's longer than we'll have. 4:02 p.m. 3 miles south. The cleanup team moved with clinical efficiency. 6 men in dark fatigues, unmarked gear, American accents. Their leader wore a headset and spoke in clipped tones. Thermal spike detected near grid 44A. Likely bunker. Proceeding silent. They left no footprints, no heat trails, no trace. They weren't soldiers. They were erasers. 5:39 p.m. Back at the station, Aminata and Ibrahim had laid traps, wire snares, claymore rigged from old shells, and silent alarms made from tin and string. But time was running thin. I hacked a U.S. defense satellite and rerouted its feed. Aminata said breathlessly, I only got 60 seconds of access, but I recorded it. She held up a flash drive, clear footage of the operative who gave the kill order. Facial match, Langley contractor. American special ops. Ibrahim's face hardened. The world thinks I died in a malfunction, but now we have their face, their voice, their command trace. We leak this, she said, and everything changes. First we survive, he replied. An explosion rocked the west perimeter. They're here. The first attacker tripped the claymore. His body vaporized before he screamed. 2 others went flanking through the trees, only to hit tripwires. Shouts, gunfire, chaos in the jungle. Ibrahim moved like a panther, silent and swift. He tackled one agent into a ravine, slashing his neck before he hit the bottom. Aminata shot another through the eye, cold, clean, and unflinching. Only 2 remained, and they were good. The leader fired 3 shots. One grazed Aminata's leg. She went down behind a tree. Ibrahim burst from the brush and knocked the man down. But the final soldier tackled him from the side. They rolled in the mud, fists flying, knives clashing. Orders were to make you disappear. The soldier growled. Then you shouldn't have missed. Ibrahim spat and drove the blade upward. The last man turned, and Aminata, bleeding but upright, put a bullet in his chest. Silence. Only the birds remained. 6:41 p.m. The extraction chopper came low and silent, its spotlight barely cutting through the dusk. A secret base loyal to Traore had sent the pilot under ghost protocol. As they lifted off, Aminata collapsed beside Ibrahim in the back seat. She whispered, "Still think it's over." He looked out the window, flames rising from the jungle. "No," he said, "it's just beginning." He clutched the flash drive in one hand. The truth was finally in his grip. Undisclosed military base, northern Burkina Faso, 7:25 a.m. The next morning, the base was buried under earth and silence, a relic from the Cold War, long forgotten by official maps but maintained by loyalists for one purpose: resurrection. President Ibrahim Traoré limped into the debriefing chamber with Aminata by his side. Her leg was bandaged, her eyes alert. Both bore the marks of fire and blood, but their spirits burned hotter than ever. The room was filled with military brass, a few intelligence officers, and 2 hackers flown in from Mali under ghost IDs. "Status?" Ibrahim asked. One of the hackers turned from his rig. "We're connected to every major news relay in West Africa, and a dozen independent satellite uplinks, and globally, 5-second delay buffers from European and American nodes. But once we go live, there's no pulling it back." "Good," Ibrahim said. "We don't pull back." He handed the flash drive to the techs. Inside, video and audio evidence of the kill order issued by the Langley contractor. Operative blacklight. It showed maps, timestamps, code phrases, and the identity of the operative, giving the final command: terminate Ibrahim Traoré, midair. No body, no martyr. Blame equipment failure. Clean. The hacker froze. "This goes all the way up." "I know," Ibrahim replied. Now let the world know. 11:45 a.m. GMT global broadcast begins across Africa. Television screens turn to static, then a live feed, a black background, then slowly the face of President Ibrahim Traoré appeared, tired, resolute, very much alive. People in Ouagadougou dropped what they were doing. Phones buzzed, markets froze, cafes fell into stunned silence. He spoke plainly, slowly. People of Africa, I was betrayed. My plane was sabotaged. My life was deemed a threat to foreign interests. Not by my people, not by any African. By agents whose faces hide behind flags that speak of democracy and freedom, but practice conquest. He paused, letting the gravity sink in. They tried to kill me in the sky. They failed. And now, I return not just to lead, but to awaken. He turned toward the camera, his voice deepening. What you are about to see is real. Then the video played. Raw footage, faces, voices, the kill command. The plan to silence Burkina Faso's independence. The bribes, the mission, the lies. The world watched in horror and rage. Within 20 minutes, global newsrooms exploded. CNN, leaked assassination order of African president shocks the West. Al Jazeera, Burkina Faso's Traore exposes alleged CIA plot. BBC, Africa's rising lion roars back from the dead. Back in the secret base, Aminata, watch the numbers on the screen tick upward. Over 42 million viewers in the first hour. You did it, she said quietly. But Ibrahim shook his head. No, we just lit the fuse. A junior officer burst into the room. Sir, international lines are lighting up. Presidents from Kenya, Algeria, even South Africa. They want to speak. They're calling it the Traore shock. Let them wait, he said. I'm not done yet. He returned to the camera. This is not just my story. This is our story. For every African leader threatened in the dark, for every country bullied with age, wrapped in chains, for every child forced to speak a colonizer's language just to be heard, this is your moment. He leaned forward. They killed my pilot. They tried to kill my voice, but now they will hear us roar. Later that night, Washington, D.C., Langley HQ, inside a classified room, men in suits watched the broadcast on mute. One of them threw his remote. This was supposed to be a clean operation. You underestimated him, another said. And now you've created something worse than a martyr. A movement. Shut it down. Smear him. Hack the feed. Do whatever it takes. The room filled with urgency, but outside those walls the fire was already burning. Back in Burkina Faso, 12:03 a.m., a convoy of trucks rolled out of the secret base. Inside were Traore's loyalist commanders, encrypted mobile relays, and a mobile studio. Ibrahim stood in the back of a modified truck with Aminata, watching the stars. You're not safe, you know, she said. They'll come again. They will. But this time, I won't be alone. She handed him a folded note. Message from Sierra Command. He opened it. We have secured a list of collaborators in the capital. They are planning an internal insurrection. Within 72 hours, he exhaled slowly. This was never about killing me. It was about killing the idea that Africa could rise without permission. Aminata looked up. But it's too late now. He nodded. Exactly. He turned to his convoy commander. Start the engines. We're heading home. Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, 72 hours later, 3:14 a.m. The city held its breath. Roadblocks had been quietly reinforced. Security posts tripled. The presidential palace, long considered compromised, was now a fortress. But not even Ibrahim Traoré knew who among his senior command still wore a mask. That's why he didn't sleep. He stood alone on the roof of an abandoned telecom tower, a few blocks from the capital, binoculars in hand, scanning rooftops and alleys. Below him, Sierra Command units moved silently through the dark, preparing for the purge. Aminata climbed up beside him, her face grim. We found them, she said. The insurrection was real, coordinated by 5 key players, 4 inside our own ministry. 1, a general. Name, General Sanda. He's the one who fed airspace data to the plane's saboteurs. Ibrahim didn't flinch. I trusted him with my life, and he nearly sold your death to the world. He inhaled slowly, staring at the city that had nearly swallowed him whole. No more silence, he said. 4:02 a.m. Palace perimeter. Traore entered the compound, not in secret but openly, flanked by 2 armored vehicles, dozens of loyalists behind him. The traitors had gathered inside the war room under the pretense of an emergency security meeting. Ibrahim walked into the room alone. For 10 seconds the room froze. General Sanda turned pale. "Mr. President, we thought." "I know what you thought," Ibrahim said. He threw the dossier onto the center table. Documents, voice transcripts, satellite maps. Then, with cold precision, he took off his red beret and placed it on the table. "Do you know what this means?" he said, staring down General Sanda. Sanda's hand drifted toward his holster. A fatal mistake. Before his fingers reached the handle, a single shot rang out. Aminata. She stood in the doorway, pistol raised. Sanda dropped, the back of his chair exploding into splinters. The others reached for their weapons, but Traore's men were already inside. In under 30 seconds, the room was secured. Ibrahim picked up his beret and put it back on. "This is not revenge," he said. "It's reclamation." Sunrise. The city erupted into noise, not from gunfire but from voices. Traore emerged from the palace gates, not behind bulletproof glass, but on foot. People rushed toward him, some crying, some singing, many kneeling. He raised both hands. "I am not here to rule in silence. I am here to serve in truth." Reporters pushed microphones forward. One question broke through. "Mr. President, what happens now?" He looked into the cameras, sweat glistening on his brow, his red beret burning like flame in the light. "Now," he said. "Now Africa speaks for itself." Across the continent, same day, in Kenya, flags with Traore's image were waved in student marches. In Nigeria, his speech was broadcast in public squares. In South Africa, leaders who once kept silent began to speak openly of neo-colonial interference. And in Washington, D.C., Paris and Brussels, diplomats scrambled, damage control underway. But the fire could not be extinguished. That night, back in the palace, Ibrahim sat in the war room again, this time alone, the room cleared of betrayal. Aminata entered quietly, placing a folder before him. "We have confirmation. The operation that targeted you wasn't rogue. It was authorized under a stability initiative, a network of special interests and foreign contractors aiming to destabilize any African government that resists economic control." He opened the folder. Inside, names, wire transfers, meeting transcripts. "This," she said, "could shatter the world." He stared at the documents, then shook his head. "No, not the world, just the illusion of who runs it." She looked at him carefully. "What will you do?" He paused. "Not what they expect." 1 week later, a new video was released, not through global media, but through encrypted channels, forums, community groups, and underground networks. It was Ibrahim Traoré. He stood before a simple wooden desk, the red and green flag of Burkina Faso behind him. His words were quiet, measured, like a storm you hear before it breaks. "We are no longer asking to be heard. We are speaking. We are no longer asking for partnership. We are building. We are no longer waiting to be saved. We are saving ourselves." Then he leaned in. "This is the beginning of the Pan-African dawn." It wasn't a call to war. It was a call to wake up. Back in the shadows, Langley HQ, the senior analyst watched the new video, face unreadable. "He's more dangerous now than before," one agent said. The analyst sipped his coffee. "Because now, he's not afraid of death." The room went silent. Outside, rain fell softly, but something deeper had already begun. Not a war, not yet, but an awakening.